I have a confession to make. I am not afraid of artificial intelligence. In fact, I rather like it, which apparently, if you read the media, puts me in some sort of minority, but you wouldn't know why people are so scared of it, and at the same time, millions and millions and millions of us engage with it weekly. But there is fear. The fear is that AI will take all our jobs, that perhaps in a few years' time we'll become extinct because we are not as clever as artificial intelligence might become. As well as being an author and a mentor and academic, because I'm a filmmaker as well, I have a different relationship with machines. Because I realize that without a machine, such as a camera, a recording, an editing suite, I wouldn't be able to do anything in terms of filmmaking. I wouldn't be able to create my vision. You might not be able to hear me so well without this microphone, although I speak loudly. So machines surround us. Machines have always been seen as a threat historically. Think of the printing press, 1450. Gutenberg created the printing presses, and immediately there was a huge panic. The church tried to ban the printing presses, created a list of hundreds and hundreds of books which were banned because they were just going to educate people too much. And this list, actually, let me tell you, lasted for 400 years. There are lots of other examples. Up the road here, you might know, in 19th century, people were destroying weaving presses, not to mention later stories about the cinema being the work of devil, or the telephone definitely being the work of devil and whispering all kinds of things into your ear. So there is the fear of the machine, but at the same time, there's something worse in us, which is worth recognizing. When we don't destroy machines, we sometimes destroy those who invent them or who think creative and different thoughts. And again, there are loads of examples, and certainly it is not my intention to depress you this wonderful morning. But think of a couple of examples. 2,500 years ago, Socrates, one of the key thinkers of all time, all he was doing is saying, try to think for yourself. Try and think independently. He famously said, the unexamined life is not worth living. One could argue that any of you who write, think, write poetry, and not just philosophers, have something to owe him. Yet he was condemned to death by the state. He was put to death because he encouraged people to think independently. Mathematician, a female mathematician, Hypatia, in Alexandria, again, almost 2,000 years ago, came up with all kinds of astonishing mathematical equations, but perhaps also because she was a woman, she was killed by the mob, considered too dangerous. The list is long. For me, personally, the most kind of depressing story is that of one of the fathers of artificial intelligence, in fact, Alan Turing, who helped defeat the Nazis during the Second World War through breaking the code through which they communicated. You would imagine that he would be cherished and recognized and respected after the war in his later years, but no. Instead, he was persecuted, his life was made unbearable because of his sexuality, because he was different. The same is going on all around the world as I speak. Scientists in different regions, in different countries around the globe are persecuted because they're not aligned to the regime at the time. I look at the relationship between humans and the machines not as a site of pathology when they get close, but perhaps as a site of hope. And this is hard to think about when you think about relationships between humans and machines, because the archetypal stories that we tell ourselves about machines and humans are all pretty horrific. Think of the Matrix. Machines take over the world and destroy humanity. Or the Blade Runner, or HAL, the computer in 2001 Space Odyssey, So why is it that there are not more stories which are positive about machines and humans, and now about artificial intelligence? I don't know, but I can offer you, as a psychoanalytically trained scholar, an idea that there's something about artificial intelligence that makes us particularly uncomfortable as humans. The machine this time speaks to us in perfect structural prose. Sometimes it writes a lot better than we do, creates codes, does lots of things like us, because we, of course, have invented it and summoned it, if you like. But psychoanalytically, it almost feels like it's our double, like there's a doppelganger, like there's something really unpleasant about this, disturbing. We don't like it. It's hard to think why. So I tried hard to find some other solutions, some other ideas, which I could share here with you about a more positive way of thinking about artificial intelligence and technology and us humans. I found two things, so I'll share them quickly. One is Donna Haraway, a philosopher, a feminist philosopher, talks about us being able to learn from other biological species here, such as ants or fungi, but she also talks about us being already like a cyborg with technology. There's nothing to fear, she says. Let's just think about it. Stay in the trouble. But the most fabulous vision is by a British writer called Ian Banks in his series of books called Culture, in which artificial intelligence becomes this huge, massive entity on different ships around the universe, creating for us humans abundance, wealth, so you don't have to work anymore. You can pursue your hobbies and desires and passions without having to exchange time for money. And nobody's bored because people have found ways of being in this new amazing world with the machines. With the little machines as well, drones, and they talk to each other. It's not a perfect vision, but it is near perfect because mortality has also been taken care of as all the diseases have been sort of got rid of. But this is not a problem in Ian Banks' vision because there's a huge space in the universe that humans can move about and live however long they choose to do so. Now, you could say, this is all wonderful, but clearly it's a complete fantasy. Well, yes, it's a complete fantasy for the time being. However, it's worth thinking about some dreams and fantasies who do become reality. I want to close with evoking Leonardo da Vinci, a famous Renaissance artist, philosopher, but also a technical man. So he, 500 years ago, was thinking about how amazing it would be to create a flying machine. He was making drawings. He was building prototypes. Of course, you would laugh today because they were completely impractical. However, as we know, the flying machines exist. We use them all the time. We are flying to the moon and we will fly beyond soon. I also want to tell you that Leonardo da Vinci too had many difficulties, had challenges, and he was being persecuted during his lifetime. But he succeeded in his living quite a long life and doing all sorts of interesting things and spreading his ideas because he was not alone. He had friends, some of them powerful friends. He had a community who supported him. And so he wasn't killed, he wasn't unhappy. He produced lots of work until it was his time to go. And so I invite you to imagine this future with machines, but it's a good future. And only through imagining, and we know because history teaches us that, things change. So, talk to each other, think of crazy ideas that you might have about artificial intelligence, but let's move away from fear and have faith and trust that there are ways in which artificial intelligence can amplify us without us trying to master its very existence, which, as I say, we have actually brought to being. So thank you so much, and I wish you all a wonderful day.